She didn't even sit down. Sasha just stood in the doorway of my apartment, keys in one hand, the other fidgeting with her sleeve. Her mouth twitched like she wanted to smile, but couldn't make herself do it. "He's back," she said, just like that. "And I think we should just be friends." I blinked. My hand was still on the fridge door, halfway to grabbing a beer. I didn't say anything. I just closed it and walked to the counter, picked up her spare key from the little bowl we always toss change in. She didn't look at me. Not really. Her eyes were on the couch, then the floor, then the hallway behind me. Anywhere but my face. I held the key out. She hesitated, then took it. Her hand brushed mine for a second, and I felt that electric jolt I used to love. But this time it just pissed me off. She muttered, "I didn't plan this. It just—" He reached out and everything got stirred up again. I nodded. Not because I understood, I didn't, but because I didn't have it in me to argue. She waited, like she expected me to say something dramatic. Ask why, beg her to stay, explode. I didn't. Instead, I grabbed my hoodie off the back of the chair, slipped on my shoes, and walked out. She called after me once, quiet like a question. I didn't answer. Quick note: before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I drove until the gas light came on. Ended up checking into some $40 a night dump outside Flagstaff. The bed felt like plywood. The ceiling fan squeaked every 10 seconds, and I lay there staring at the water stains on the ceiling, listening to my heart pound like it hadn't caught up yet. No texts, no calls, nothing. I checked her Instagram 2 days later. New post. An overhead shot of latte art, captioned, "Sometimes you gotta go backward to go forward." I didn't like it, didn't comment, just stared at it like it owed me an explanation. Was I supposed to chase her? Fight for her? Slam her door and demand answers? Or did I do the only thing that made sense? Walk out with my head still on straight? I didn't know. Still don't. But I do know one thing: whatever we had, it wasn't enough for her to stay. And that silence, that disappearing act, that told me everything I needed to know. I stayed one more night at the motel. Didn't even bother calling into work. Next morning, I left the key on the nightstand and drove back toward town. I had nowhere to go, but I sure as hell wasn't going back to her. I crashed on my buddy Tyler's couch the next night. Just showed up at his door with a duffel bag and no explanation. He didn't ask for one. Work was a blur. I'd sit through meetings nodding like I was listening, then stare at spreadsheets I couldn't remember opening. I missed deadlines. I forgot inventory counts. My boss called me into his office twice. Asked if I was burning out. I told him I was fine. Total lie. After work, I'd sit on Tyler's balcony, smoking his cheap gas station cigars and scrolling through Sasha's Instagram. She was posting daily now, all filtered photos of rustic-looking tables, fresh herbs in mason jars, handwritten menus on recycled paper. The captions were full of crap like radical simplicity and local honesty. She and her ex were launching a restaurant together. Not just any restaurant, some conscious culinary space or whatever, in Sedona, with seed funding, outdoor seating, stone ground flour. Our food truck dream? Gone. No mention of it. No shout out. No thanks for the idea or the years we spent sketching out designs in diner booths. Just buzzwords and artsy shots of her laughing with people I'd never seen before. I hated how clean it looked, how carefully staged it all was. One night I saw a photo of her with the ex, bearded, flannel-wrapped, smug, leaning over a butcher block counter like they invented fire-roasted vegetables. Caption said, "When vision aligns, magic happens." I almost threw my phone off the balcony. Sleep turned into 2-hour stretches. I'd wake up sweating, stomach empty, heart racing. Couldn't eat more than a granola bar in the morning, maybe some ramen at night. Tyler noticed. He said I looked like hell. I just shrugged. "I'm good, man." A couple weeks later, I was sitting in the break room half asleep when HR walked in. Said there was a logistics opening in West Texas, 6-month detail. Field-based, full autonomy, handling supply ops for renewable sites across a 5-county stretch. "No one's jumping for it," she said. "It's hot, remote, and dry as hell. You'd be solo most of the time. I said yes before she finished her sentence. Didn't even ask about pay. Didn't care. Tyler looked at me like I was nuts. Dude, West Texas? You hate the heat. I hate being here more, I said. He didn't argue after that. The move happened fast. My boss didn't push back, just signed the transfer form and told me to stay out of trouble. HR sent me the details: company truck, furnished housing unit, fuel card. I packed what I needed and left everything else in Tyler's spare closet. My last night in town, I sat in his living room eating a dry sandwich and watching some food travel show where a chef cried over grilled octopus. I used to love that stuff. Now it just made me feel sick. Sasha hadn't texted, hadn't called. Her posts slowed down, but they were still coming. Some black and white video of her pouring soup into a handmade ceramic bowl. Comments full of heart emojis and chef goddess praise. I turned my phone off and left it that way for the entire drive. Didn't even check the route. Just pointed west and kept the gas pedal down. I didn't know what I was running toward, but I sure as hell knew what I was leaving behind. West Texas hit different. Flat, wide open, dry enough to chap your lips just stepping outside. The air smelled like dust and sunburned sagebrush. Every morning I woke up to nothing but wind and power lines stretching straight to the edge of the sky. And somehow that nothing felt perfect. I got assigned to a logistics route covering 6 oil towns in transition, places swapping out old gas rigs for wind and solar. My job was supply coordination, making sure parts arrived when they were supposed to, equipment got logged, inventory didn't vanish. It was fast-paced, hands-on, and just quiet enough to let my head clear. No one asked questions. They saw I worked hard and didn't screw around. That was enough. The guys on the rigs talked shop, heat stroke, cattle, and busted rotors. No one cared who I used to date. My phone stayed off unless I needed it for work. No Instagram, no Sasha, no temptation. On weekends, I'd drive out solo across these long dirt roads, launching my drone over old gas fields. There was something weirdly peaceful about watching them from above. Rusted metal towers half swallowed by mesquite, pump jacks sitting still for the first time in decades. I'd film for hours, then go home with windburn and dirt in my teeth. That's where I met Denise. She was a logistics auditor, flown in from the Denver office to tighten up the mess on our supply chain reports. From day one, she was blunt and unbothered. Short black hair, plain work boots, clipboard always in hand. She didn't smile much, but when she did, it came with a joke sharp enough to leave a mark. "Why the hell is there a 6-day delay on basic turbine mounts?" she asked one night during inventory checks. "You hiding them in the desert for fun?" I laughed. "Just building suspense." She snorted. "You've got 2 weeks to get this site under control. If I find any more mystery pallets, I'm mailing your ass to Arizona." We started talking more after that, during drives between sites or long nights at the yard checking incoming shipments. She had zero patience for sloppiness and a radar for bullshit. Didn't ask about my past, never brought up relationships or hometowns. But she noticed stuff, knew when I was zoning out, knew I wasn't sleeping right. "You're like a house that got hit by a storm," she said one night, sitting on the tailgate of my truck while we waited for a late hauler. "Still standing, but you haven't picked up the broken pieces yet." I didn't respond. Didn't need to. We kept working like that, side by side but not tangled up. No drama. No questions I didn't want to answer. Just slow, steady tension building underneath every hour we spent together. One night, storm rolled in while we were checking turbine bases near Rankin. Sky went full charcoal gray, lightning in the distance, thunder low and steady. We climbed into my truck just as the rain hit hard enough to flood the dirt road in seconds. She was quiet for a while, just staring out the window as the wipers struggled to keep up. Then she turned and looked straight at me. "You're not here to be background in someone else's movie," she said. "You get that, right?" I didn't know what to say, but something about the way she said it, not soft, not pitiful, just plain truth, it hit different. Stuck with me. After the rain passed, we got out, checked the last of the pallets, and drove back without another word. But something had shifted. I wasn't chasing ghosts anymore. I was finally showing up for my own damn story. A couple weeks later, I broke my no Instagram rule. It was late, just past midnight. Denise had already gone back to her unit, and I was wired from too much coffee and a long shift. I opened the app like a reflex, typed Sasha's name in the search bar before I could talk myself out of it. Her posts were fewer now. Same color palette, same artsy filters, but less polish. The captions had changed. Still trying to sound poetic, but the edges were sharper now, bitterness leaking through the cracks. One post had a photo of a burned hand pie and the caption, "When creativity becomes compromise, you end up serving ash." Another one, a dim-lit shot of a mostly empty dining room. We had vision. They had control. Then came the food blogger post. Some mid-level local guy I used to follow back when we were building out the food truck concept. He wrote a long review/update thread about how her partner had quietly exited the project after what he called a difference in philosophy. Translation, he bailed. Sasha hadn't posted anything directly about it, but her next upload was just a blurry photo of a smashed jar of pickled carrots on a concrete floor, captioned, "Some things just don't hold." I stared at it for way too long. I didn't feel smug, didn't feel sad either. It just confirmed everything I'd already figured out. She chased that shiny thing, and it burned out in her hands. Same way she dropped us the second something looked more exciting. Meanwhile, things with Denise kept moving. Not fast, not labeled, just something real. Something solid. We were out near McCamey one night, doing overnight checks before a storm system rolled in. Big thunderheads on the horizon. Sky turning copper and bruised. Forecast said we had 20 minutes before it hit. We stayed too long anyway. By the time we made it back to my truck, the wind was slapping the doors and rain was coming in sideways. We sat there, soaked, her boots muddy, my hands still full of drone gear. Wipers couldn't keep up, and lightning kept flashing so bright it lit up the entire cab. She looked over at me, eyes narrow, hair plastered to her forehead. "That drone's gonna get you electrocuted one of these days." I laughed. "Then you'll finally get control of the inventory reports." She smirked, then leaned back in the seat. "You ever gonna tell me who broke you?" I didn't answer right away. The rain on the roof sounded like gunfire. I looked out at the turbines, their blades slicing through the wind like nothing could touch them. "Someone who wanted to feel special more than she wanted something real," I said finally. Denise didn't nod, didn't sympathize, just said, "Yeah, that tracks." We sat like that for a minute, the storm raging all around, the truck shaking like it might lift off the road. Then she shifted toward me. "I'm not her," she said. "I know." And then we kissed. No music, no perfect angle, just rain and adrenaline and a kind of quiet I hadn't felt in years. It didn't fix anything, but it didn't need to. We didn't say anything after. We just stayed there, in the cab, watching the storm pass. That kiss didn't come with promises. No big confessions or morning after drama. But it felt like a turning point, like something had finally cracked open. Not just between us, but in me. I didn't know what it was yet, but it wasn't about chasing, or proving, or fixing something broken. It was just starting. Couple weeks after that storm, we pulled it off. The dual-source grid we'd been sweating over for months finally went live. Wind and solar backup feeding into a town that had been running on gas fumes and luck for half a year. One transformer blew out the first day, but we fixed it before nightfall. No blackouts, no hiccups, just clean, stable power humming through old lines like someone flipped the switch on a new life. The mayor called us heroes. Our team just laughed and cracked open warm Gatorades in the bed of my truck. News spread fast in that world. 2 days later, some writer from a renewable energy trade mag called asking for an interview. Said he'd heard my name from a supplier out in San Angelo. Wanted to know how we balanced the load with such a lean operation. I gave him the real answer. We didn't have the option to screw it up. He quoted me word for word. Next thing I know, my boss is driving down from Austin, shaking my hand, talking about a regional rollout. Said they needed someone with field experience and no ego. Someone who'd seen the chaos up close and still delivered. I thought of all the nights I slept in the truck or ate cold beef jerky for dinner because the site trailer ran out of snacks. I said, yeah, I'm in. Denise didn't say much when I told her, just nodded, then said, hope you like paperwork. Turns out I didn't mind it. Not when it meant designing better systems, building smarter sites. I even got to pick my own team. Denise stayed on, of course. I couldn't do this without her, and she knew it. We moved into a modular prefab just outside Fort Stockton. One of the newer models, half steel, half reclaimed wood, all efficient. We designed the layout ourselves. Big open kitchen, 2 desks with actual chairs, blackout blinds in the bedroom, and a water tank that didn't rattle like a dying snake every time you flushed. At night, we'd sit out by the fire pit, the turbines spinning slow in the distance, sparks from the cedar logs floating up into the dark like tiny satellites. No TV, no music, just wind and flame and us. One night, she passed me a beer, legs stretched out, boots kicked off. You ever miss it? She asked. I didn't even need to ask what it meant. Nope, I said, and I meant it. I hadn't checked Sasha's socials in months. Didn't even think about it most days. I didn't care what restaurant burned down or which ex had resurfaced. That ghost didn't follow me here. She used to make everything feel like a pitch, like life was a brand and I was part of the packaging. With Denise, there was no performance. We didn't take selfies under sunset light or overthink the lighting in the kitchen. We just lived. I'd cook breakfast. She'd fix the backup power relay. I'd rant about busted supply logs. She'd call the vendor and make them cry on speakerphone. It was sharp, honest, messy in the best way. And the thing was, I didn't need to tell the world about it. It didn't need hashtags or vision boards or filtered pictures of sourdough in a linen towel. It just needed to be real. And it was. One night, sitting by the fire with the coyotes howling somewhere out past the hills, I felt it settle in for real. Peace. I didn't even notice the exact moment it happened. Just sat there, sipping my beer, staring into the flames, and thinking, yeah, this is it. No announcements, no branding, no 5-paragraph captions. Just a life that worked. And for the first time in years, I didn't want to be anywhere else. She showed up 3 months later like nothing had ever burned down. I was out at the site office checking shipment logs when one of the interns poked his head in and said, hey, some lady's asking for you? Says she's with a film crew. I stepped outside and there she was. Sasha. Same intense eyes, same posture like she was about to pitch a startup, except this time there was a tired edge to it. She wore black boots, dusty from the dirt lot, and a faded denim jacket I recognized from the Flagstaff days. Hey, she said, like it hadn't been over a year, like she hadn't disappeared from my life with one sentence. I didn't say anything, just raised an eyebrow. She motioned to the 2 people behind her, one holding a DSLR, the other setting up a mic boom. I'm working on a short doc series about energy transitions in rural communities. Someone told me about this project, and I thought it would be a perfect fit. Bullshit. There were no media forms submitted, no permits requested, no heads up through corporate. And she didn't even pretend to know how field access worked. I crossed my arms. Then you need to go through the proper channels. You can't just show up with a camera and start filming on a live site. She gave me this soft shrug, half smile. I figured I'd start with you. Thought you'd be glad to see me. I almost laughed. I glanced at the 2 crew members. Turn that off, I said, pointing at the camera. You're not cleared to film here. They stepped back. Sasha motioned for them to give us space. They wandered off toward the trucks. She looked back at me. Can we get coffee or something? I should have said no. I wanted to say no, but the look on her face, not fake, not staged, just worn down, it threw me off. Fine, I said. 1 cup. That's it. We left the site in separate vehicles. I messaged Denise while I drove, told her Sasha showed up, said it was film-related. Denise replied, you good? I texted back, yeah, just curious what this is. 15 minutes later, we were at a local coffee shop, one of those newer ones with Edison bulbs, reclaimed wood tables, and drinks named after desert storms. The barista didn't recognize her, but Sasha still held herself like someone who expected attention. We sat by the window. She ordered a pour-over. I didn't order anything. You look different, she said, stirring nothing into her cup. I am, I said. She nodded. You really let go. You asked me to. She paused, like that wasn't the answer she expected. I thought, I don't know, that you'd fight, that you'd be angry. Slam a door. Tell me off. I walked out because you made your choice. She looked down at her coffee. Her hands were shaking a little. I thought chasing something bold would give me clarity, she said. But all I got was chaos. He bailed. The investors pulled. I ended up closing the place after 3 months. Everyone left, except the debt. I didn't say anything, not out of cruelty, just nothing left to say. You were the only real thing I had, she said, voice catching. I'm seeing someone, I told her. She nodded fast like she already knew. You deserve that. I didn't know what I was doing. I messed up everything. I let it sit there, then said, I'm not interested in being right. I just moved on. She wiped her eyes and gave me a broken smile. That's what makes it worse. You actually did. We stood up without hugging, without any dramatic goodbye. She walked to her car, paused, and turned like she might say something else, but then didn't. And I didn't wait to see if she would. The place was one of those trendy setups that tried too hard. Reclaimed wood tables, iron pipes for shelves, Edison bulbs hanging just low enough to bump your head if you weren't paying attention. Indie music hummed from a single speaker, too soft to drown out the hiss of the espresso machine. Sasha sat in the corner, back straight, hair tied up like she'd planned every detail of the meeting except what she was going to say. When she looked up, I almost didn't recognize her. Still beautiful but thinner, pale. The kind of tired that makeup couldn't hide. Thanks for meeting me, she said. Her voice was smaller than I remembered. I sat across from her. You wanted to talk. She took a breath, held it, then said, You really let go. I did. You asked me to, I added before she could twist it into something else. She gave the sad laugh, not fake, just wrecked. I thought you'd fight, or at least be angry. You just left, like you were already halfway gone. I was done being an option, I said. You made a call, I respected it. That's all. She looked down, turning her cup in slow circles. Her hands trembled. The coffee was untouched. When she looked up again, her eyes were wet. You were supposed to slam the door, shout, something. Instead, you just disappeared. And it messed with me. Yeah, I said. That was the point. She tried to smile, but it broke halfway through. I thought going back to him would bring back who I was before, the fearless version. But he left a month in, said I was too demanding, too emotional. Then the investors started breathing down my neck. We opened late, the concept didn't land, and the money vanished. Her voice cracked. I chased excitement and lost the one person who was real. The sound of her crying didn't hit me like I thought it would. No satisfaction, no pity either. Just this deep, calm recognition, like hearing the last echo of something that used to mean everything. I waited until she caught her breath. Then I said, I'm seeing someone. She froze, then nodded. Of course you are. It's serious, I added. Her eyes filled again, but she didn't look away. Good. You deserve that. I deserve this. I don't get to complain about the mess I made. You don't, I said quietly. She wiped her face with a napkin, hands shaking worse now. You were right, she whispered. You said some people just like chaos because it makes them feel alive. I thought I was above that. Guess not. I don't need to be right, I told her. I just moved on. She laughed again, raw and short. You make it sound easy. It wasn't, I said. But it was necessary. We sat in silence for a while. Around us, people chatted about podcasts and startups and the latest cold brew roast. Outside, a delivery truck backed up with that beeping sound that never stops. It felt like the universe reminding us that life just keeps going, no matter who falls apart. Finally, she stood. I'm glad you're okay. I am, I said. She nodded, pulling her jacket tight. That's good. I should go. She started walking toward the door, stopped halfway, and turned like she wanted to say something else. But she didn't. She just gave this small, tired nod and walked out. I watched her cross the street and disappear into the crowd. No dramatic goodbye. No closure speech. Just two people who used to know each other, standing on opposite sides of the same wreck. When she was gone, I stayed in that seat a few minutes longer. The barista wiped the next table, asked if I wanted a refill. I told him no and left a tip anyway. Outside, the sky was overcast, the air thick with rain about to fall. I stood there for a second, breathing it in. It didn't hurt. Not anymore. It just felt finished. By the time I got home that night, the sky had cracked wide open. Thunder in the distance, fat drops pounding the metal roof of our prefab. I kicked off my boots, still thinking about that last look Sasha gave me before walking out of the coffee shop. Denise was in the kitchen, barefoot, drinking chamomile from a chipped white mug we found at a flea market 2 towns over. She looked up. "So," she said, "your ex stopped by." I froze mid-step. "What?" "Yeah, while you were gone." Said her car broke down a few miles out. "Walked here. In the rain." She sipped her tea, completely unfazed. I figured it's cold, whatever. Invited her in. "She came here? To the house?" Denise nodded. "Didn't touch anything. Sat right there." She pointed to the armchair by the window, the one we dragged in off a construction site and power washed back to life. I sat down at the table, heart beating a little faster now. "And?" She asked for coffee. Said she wasn't expecting you to be out. We talked. I raised an eyebrow. "About?" She said she used to feel mysterious and special when she was with you. Denise gave a little shrug. Like it was some kind of drug. The drama, the ambiguity, being adored. I didn't say anything. Just looked at her. Waiting. I told her that sounded exhausting, Denise said flatly. That made me smile a little. "What did she say?" "She said." Denise paused, then looked me right in the eye. "Yeah, it was." I leaned back in the chair, exhaled hard. "Was she fishing for something?" "No, I don't think so." She tilted her head, thinking. She looked around a lot, like she was mentally cataloging everything. The desk setup, the mud boots by the door, the coffee mugs. "I think she wanted to see if you were different now, or if it could have been her here instead." "And what did she decide?" "She left," Denise said. "No big scene. Just put her hood back up and said she didn't need a ride." I sat there, staring at the tile floor we'd laid ourselves, the edge still slightly uneven by the fridge. For a second, I pictured Sasha standing in this exact kitchen, trying to turn it into something for Instagram, trying to rearrange the coffee canisters for aesthetic. It would have never worked. "She's done," I said, not asking, just stating it. Denise nodded. "Yeah, that was her goodbye." We didn't talk about it much after that. There wasn't anything else to say. No dramatic fallout. No late-night calls. No final twist. Just one last knock at the door, and a woman finally realizing she wasn't the storm. She was just chasing one. And we were still here, living in it. A few weeks later, Denise posted a photo of me at sunrise. I didn't even know she took it. Just me up on the rig, one hand on the wind sensor, backlit by that pale orange light that rolls in before the heat kicks up. No caption. No filter. Just raw and quiet and ours. I didn't think much of it until I checked my phone later that night. Sasha had liked it. Then, 30 seconds later, unliked it. I sat there on the porch, thumb hovering over the screen, staring at the notification like it meant something. Didn't. Not really. But it still made my stomach twist. I tapped her profile. Gone. No bio. No posts. No links. Just the default blank circle where her picture used to be. Hours later, even the account disappeared, like she'd erased herself from the whole platform. That was the first time I realized it wasn't just over. It was done. I showed Denise the like-unlike, the ghost blip, the vanishing act. She glanced at it and nodded. "That's intense," she said, then went back to making dinner like she hadn't just watched a whole chapter of my life get deleted in real time. We didn't talk about it again. There wasn't anything to talk about. No deep dive. No analysis. Just one final signal flare from someone who used to be the center of my world, and now barely registered as static. That silence after? It wasn't heavy. It was clean. A few months later, Denise and I packed up the prefab and headed north. We landed in a coastal town just outside Astoria, Oregon. Quiet, green, fogged in most mornings. Nothing flashy. Just cliffs, pine trees, and wind strong enough to make the roof creak. The kind of place where no one cares what you used to do, as long as you don't block the driveway. She took a project manager role with a private wind contractor. I got promoted again. Federal grants pouring in now, funding hybrid grid pilots all along the coast. The work was big, complicated, exactly the kind of puzzle I liked solving. Most days we kept to ourselves, walked the trails behind our rental when the weather held, cooked late, built shelves from scrap wood we found at a yard sale. Nothing curated, nothing branded, just life. One night, we were out on the bluff trail, jackets zipped to our chins, hands buried in our pockets. The turbines were behind us, blades turning slow in the mist, that steady low hum like a heartbeat under everything. I kicked a rock down the path and said, "You can't save someone from the chaos they chase." Denise looked over, didn't break stride. "No," she said, "but you can build something that outlasts it." That line stuck with me, because that's what I'd been doing, without even realizing it. Not fixing things, not trying to win or get even or prove I mattered. Just building. A network. A job I cared about. A quiet home with someone who didn't want me to perform. Systems that worked. A life I didn't have to escape from. And that was enough. No drama. No final speech. No ghost left to chase. Just the wind. The work. And me finally steady.